sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, so kindly smash that subscribe button and turn your notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I'm saying massive shout out to every one of you for the love, the support you all shower me here with. I am grateful to all my members. You all are super sweet. So today we'll be talking something very important. It's about this Dominican man. I mean, these people are just so unbelievable most times, and they can do the most, you know. So it was an interview kind of, and they said they are not black. He said, I am not black, I am Dominican, you know. And then they started started trying to prove to us why he is not black. I mean, he was like, see my skin, I look a bit white. Even I am like, how do you look white? This whole thing is just like, I am really tired of waking up to see them, like, you know, trying to prove a point to us why they do not have black blood or something and all that. Because he went further to say that they are special race because they are mixed with so many things and all that. That's why they are not black, and you know the rest of it. And so he was asking the next black man there, like, let's assume that your DNA says that you are maybe half European and all that. Are you going to claim European or still claim black? The man said, I am gonna claim black. Like, how do I look like an European man and all that? Like, straight up, he is choosing to be a black person, and he is here trying to convince us why he is not black, why he's can't you see that he is more like European, more white than, how do you call him black? And I am asking what the hell is going on, because he is so confused that he is also looking for someone to confuse. He is looking for someone to join his own people that their majority of their ancestors are African, are coming out here to tell us that they are not black and they are Dominicans, or like they are white passing. Like, make this make sense, because my brain is already turning me. I don't understand what is going on. I am gonna roll this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. So straight up,
you don't know much about Dominicans. I think you should do your homework before you talk about Dominicans. I see in a video that you talk about we deported people because they're black, and Mexicans deported a lot of Haitians. So it's not about race. You don't know our history. You don't know our genetics, because we Dominican, we are a special race. We have Taino on our blood. We have European on our blood when they came on 1492. You should know that before you talk about our race. You were talking about this girl that she said she's not black, and she was right. She's not black. She's Dominican. If you ask me who I am gonna tell you I'm Dominican. If you ask me, are you white? I'm gonna tell you no, I'm not. Even though I am white.
First thing you said is, we Dominicans were a special race. Dominican is not a race. Dominican is a nationality. You said Dominicans are a special race because we're mixed with different races. I got newsflash for you. Every people in the Americas is mixed with all of these three races. All of us. So there's nothing special about you or Dominicans at all. You are just a product of colonization as well as ethnic cleansing like the rest of us, sir. Okay? That was a mistake right there. No such thing as Dominicans as a special race. What makes you special? That you mix with all these races? We all are. And the reasons for being mixed with all these races, it's not a good reason. It's nothing to romanticize. It's nothing to say, oh my God, you are a product of grape, is what you are. Now, addressing the video about the young lady who's Dominican who said, I'm not African descent, I'm Hispanic, I speak Spanish. She is phenotypically African descent, black. You cannot tell the difference between her and a black American. The only time you'll even tell the difference is when she opens her mouth and speaks Spanish. Is he black?
If I go by his color, I would say he's black.
Are there people that look just like him that are Dominican?
Yes, a bunch.
Okay, cool. When the word black is being used, it means African descent. So now black people hear Dominicans say, I'm not black, I speak Spanish. What the hell does the language that you speak have to do with?
Well, hold on. I explained to you that we are mixed. Like you're trying to say they all come from Africa. Even if his color is black, he could feel European.
There's no way I could ever assimilate into whiteness, even though I got 15% Irish.
Even if the color of your skin is black and you say you have European, how you identify more as a European or as a black American?
As a black person. This very superficial color of skin dictates a lot in this country. But I would imagine the black people that look like me in the Dominican Republic probably make a lower income and have lower access too.
No,
so I have a question for you. Of all of the presidents of the Dominican Republic, have a majority of them look like me with my color?
No, we had one candidate, but
okay. That's all I'm asking. If you look at all of the big companies in the Dominican Republic, are a majority of them, their CEOs look like me?
Not really. We have a bunch of black CEOs.
But do you see how I can make those assumptions?
You're making the color of his skin as an excuse. I used to live in Harlem, so I have a lot of black friends there. And let me tell you something. They will stay home smoking pot. So if you get the opportunity and you get the chance and the government is paying you a loan so you could go to school, why they don't go to school? I mean, you cannot keep feeling as a victim when you have a chance to grow, to become better. Don't tell me the Spanish are going to come from Dominican and go over there, not even speaking English, and they're going to progress. They're going to buy a bodega. And you, American, who speak English and who have all the chances on the world, you can make it.
You ask me, Mexico is deporting Haitians. Are they racist?
Yes, I asked you that.
I'll answer it for you. The answer is yes. Let me prove it to you. Mexico has systemically made the effort to bring in Europeans. They brought in Europeans by the boatloads because they wanted to whiten Mexico. For the same reason why in Dominican Republic, Trujillo wiped out how many black people from Dominican Republic? It's for that same reason. Because these colonized countries in Latin America are trying to whiten the countries.
You don't know much about Dominicans. I think you should do your homework before you talk about Dominicans.
We are a special race. We have Taino on our blood. We have European on our blood.
I have to witness statements.
So in that clip, we saw a man who is from the Dominican Republic claiming that he says people don't understand the history of the Dominican Republic and that Dominican itself is a race, that there's no such thing as white Dominican, there's no such thing as a black Dominican, even though he actually in that clip claims that he is white, which further proves that he doesn't understand what race and ethnicity and nationality are and the differences between them. And it's crazy for him to be telling other people that they don't understand the history of the Dominican Republic while he also is showing that he doesn't understand his own history. So I thought we would take a second and just kind of cover a couple things and break down what he said in that clip. Because so much of what he said was erasure and was dangerous to the black community. Not just in the Dominican Republic, but everywhere. So first let's cover the basics. What is race? Well, modern science regards race as a social construct, an identity which is assigned based on rules made by society. Those rules are phenotype, skin color, physical features, right? So that's something that we need to understand, is that while partly based on physical similarities within groups, race does not have an inherent physical or biological meaning. That means race is not biological. Race is not in your DNA. It is not in your genetics. Race is not real. It is a social colonial construct that has made impact on our society up to this very day, to the point of where we racialize everyone and everything. Again, race is a social construct used to group people. Race was constructed as a hierarchical human grouping system, generating racial classification to identify, distinguish, and marginalize some groups across nations, regions, and the world. Race divides human populations into groups often based on physical appearances, also taking into account social factors and cultural background. But again, race is not a biological reality. Your ancestry does not determine your race. The social structure of the human hierarchy is what determines your race based solely on what you present as. Physical features that are similar within a specific ethnic group or geographical region, and skin color. Now, we also must understand that race can vary depending on geographical social context. So how does race play a role in the Dominican Republic? And is the Dominican Republic free of racism as the man in the clip claimed it is? The definition of race in the Dominican Republic is related very closely to aesthetics. That would mean physical appearance. It's often displayed in the language, such as people have fine hair or people have bad hair. or they have a clear complexion or a burnt complexion. You can hear the racism and the colorism in the language. You see, social prejudice is frequently phrased in aesthetic terms, and being white or blanco remains a social and aesthetic ideal for many people in the Dominican Republic. The Dominican identity incorporates a racism that is more often insidious than overt. A citizen was quoted as saying, socially, to be blanco is an advantage. And it's never mentioned openly, but inwardly there is a real sentiment that says, that negro. The underlying prejudice against African ancestry, its common sense expression through anti-Haitian sentiment, and the ensuing practices of discrimination are the focus on a lot of discussions centered around the structure of the Dominican Republic. The development of the Dominican society from the colonial period is outlined, and the influence of anti-Haitian sentiment and the use of Indio. The historical basis of race in the Dominican Republic is deeply correlated with its relations to Haiti, and the Dominican society is formulated from the colonial period around anti-Haitian sentiments. Again, race has been considered historically from biological and social perspective. The ideology of scientific racism suggested that human species could be divided into a number of fixed biological categories. These categories determined individual behavior and cultural variation. Race has since been viewed as only a social construct, not a natural division of mankind. Race is found in symbolic form, but not as a real object. Race only exists in discourse, and racism is transmitted through this discourse to legitimate domination. Now, to say that there is no racialization or racism in Dominican Republic is historically false, and even false within today's current society. Racial prejudice against Haitians is self-evident. Racial prejudice against Haitians is self-evident in the Dominican Republic. The rural Haitian population is physically segregated as a racial labor enclave, and socially by racism and popular opposition to assimilation. Dominicans recognize a necessity for Haitians as a unit of labor, but they condemn their presence to one of marginalization and inferiority. Some might argue that anti-Haitianism is fundamental in the functionality of the Dominican state. So to say that Dominicans do not racialize themselves and others outside of simply being Dominican as a race is historically and currently, within societal context, false. Being a Black Dominican is a reality just like being a white Dominican is a reality. And saying it's not by grouping all Dominicans as the race Dominican is completely erasing the existence and experiences of those in the Dominican who are not racially white, who daily live with the real experiences, the reality of the racism that exists in the Dominican. And to sit there and say that, oh, why can people who don't speak the language come to America and succeed while people who have been here for generations can't, is wildly anti-Black and also historically ignorant, because you are completely ignoring the historical truth of the generational disenfranchisement and marginalization and oppression within institutions, laws, and structures within the society, within the reality that Black people live in. This is the same sentiment by saying, why can't you succeed? All that's over with, you should be able to succeed too, is the same thing as telling Black people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps, when generationally we were never given boots, let alone straps to pull ourselves up by. Well, at the same time, racially white people have been given handout after handout after handout from the government itself. There has been a 500-year head start that no one wants to talk about, but instead want to demonize Black and brown people for not succeeding in the same capacity that their white counterparts do, with minimal to limited effort. These discussions cannot be had if we're not going to be honest and tell the truth about history. And for these discussions to actually have an impact and get anywhere, people who live a racialized white experience have to stop trying to minimize and silencing people who live an experience based on being Black, Indigenous, and other POC. Because racism is a white people problem that has direct effects negatively on the lives of people who live this experience in this skin.
African descent, Black. You cannot tell the difference.
Now, sir, I had to get up here looking crazy than a motherfucker, but I got to get you together now. Now, Black does not equate African, sir. All dark people did not come from Africa, sir. You see, y'all be loud and wrong. Not the Negroes. That would be the so-called Black people of America. So I'm gonna need y'all to stop spreading misinformation, please and thank you.
Different races. I got newsflash for you. Every people in the Americas is mixed with all the.
It is so that the majority of the people in the Americas usually have varying degrees of racial ancestries. I mean, many people usually are not purely of one specific racial ancestry, and I absolutely agree with that. We must also to realize that many people come from nations where a specific racial category is more prominent than the others, and as a result, their culture is directly tied to that lineage. So you take, for instance, us as African Americans, Haitians, and Jamaicans, who are overwhelmingly black, having much less significant contributions to our genome and our culture from our non-black ancestries. We damn near just identify as just being black, not only in terms of our race, but also too in terms of our culture, because most of the culture that we practice is from our West African ancestors. Now, you compare this to a country like the Dominican Republic, where they have equal quantums just about of their genetic ancestry and their cultural lineage being from their African, Taino, and Spanish ancestors. It comes as no surprise as to why they would embrace a identity rooted not only in a genetic mixed race ancestry, but even also to in a ethnic diversity. Anyone who's born in the Dominican Republic at that will identify with that culture. And furthermore, the way that Dominicans identify individually, which I've already touched on, will vary drastically, because you might have Dominicans, for instance, who have more African blood, and they might see themselves as being more culturally tied to their African lineage as opposed to their less significant Spanish ancestry or less significant Taino ancestry. And you have some Dominicans who have more Taino blood and more European ancestry, so they feel more Spanish in terms of their race and culture, as opposed to their lesser contributions to their genome and their ethnic heritage. I, for instance, am an African American. Genetically speaking, I'm 80% of West African ancestry, and 20% of my ancestry is from the United Kingdom, specifically England. Okay, I don't identify as white because I don't have any recent person in my family that I know of who is of European ancestry, and there is also too no cultural recollection that I'm aware of that comes from my British and Irish ancestors. So I identify wholly as being black because that's the only reality that has been relative to me throughout the entirety of my life. Second of all, the fact that you mentioned racial whitening in the Dominican Republic is laughable because, first of all, blanqueamiento, which is what the process is properly referred to, was occurring in the post-colonial era in these Latin American countries. So these countries weren't even under the rulership of Spain at the time when this was occurring. And while in the Dominican Republic in later years there might have been an intentional campaign led to encouraging migration from Europe to whiten out the black population, this wasn't so in the colonial era of Spain, which is where we see the mixed race population being born out of. The mixed race population in the Dominican Republic literally was from the inception of the Dominican Republic, with the Spanish intermarrying the Taino women and then later mixing with the African population, which wasn't an intentional campaign. So there wasn't an intentional agenda to invite mass immigration from Europe at that time to the Dominican Republic, encouraging them to whiten out the black population. Okay, if that happened later in the Dominican Republic's history, that's not where the mixed race population in the Dominican Republic comes from. The the mixed race population in the Dominican Republic was from the very inception of the Dominican Republic's history with colonial Spain.
So this is all I got from this video, and it is really amazing how these people are so anti-black, and it really amazes me. And he said there are special race. Like, which race is not special? Which one is saying that he is not black, and though he is like white? I mean, what makes you, how do you look white? You look exactly like me, or even not exactly like me, maybe a little bit lighter than me, but like, you know, I really do not understand these people, because the whole thing, the whole concept, especially coming from them, is just, nobody is saying if that you are African, because the other lady was like, not everybody that look black is from Africa. We all know that, but what is, are you black? Are you a black person? You are not, like they always say. you are Dominican because you are a special race. And then he went further to say that they are mixed with so many things. That's why they are so like, look at, I mean, it's just so crazy. That's why they are special race. Almost every race is, most races are mixed with some certain things, you know. Maybe have this, have that, quarter this, quarter that, and all that. So it is not just only you. I am sure that some African Americans, when they go for their DNA test, some are half Nigerian, some are maybe quarter Ghanaian or Liberian, you know, something like that. And then he said that, like, how did they exactly look like white? Because he tried to say that they can also identify as Europeans and all that. Man, get your shit together and you all stop being this anti-black, because really, this doesn't make any sense. I have seen several videos of them always saying that, Papito, I am not black. I am not, see, I mean, like, they will be trying to, you see how ignorant is. When an ignorant person is trying to confuse you or let you know that, can't you see, are you not seeing it? Are you blind? Can't you see that I am not black? Man, this is mad. It's really crazy. And I love the fact that how this man actually came out to say, I mean, like, say you are a product of grape. Does that even ring any bell? I mean, how do you, most times you cannot even tell the difference between them and us, except maybe when they speak their language, Spanish, or maybe even most of them, the ones that grew up in America they also speak like African Americans. So if you do not know, most times you wouldn't know that they are not black. So, but then you see them trying so hard to prove to you that I am not black, but they want to act black. You see these people are, there is nothing as evil as ignorant. Ignorance is so evil. Evil in a way that's like, you know, it's going to confuse you, confuse your generation, confuse people around. Then you also look for people to confuse because they are so confused. See how he is defending this and also looking for a way to confuse somebody. And man, it's just all mad. But then kudos to them, you know. Papito, you are not black. You see, I am Dominican. Shout out to you. Even most of them that their ancestors came from Africa. I ain't lying about this. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.